Salutations, Legion of Doom. Welcome to Podcast The Storm, where social outcasts, crazy weirdos, and all around nerds convene to talk and debate all things pop culture. With me, as always, is my co host, the Nerdy Occultist, aka the Authenticator, Dalton L. Mortimer.
Good evening, everyone. Apparently, we've missed a couple of articles over the years because some of the articles we came up for this week are older than you would think. But that just goes to prove how thoroughly these people will not leave holidays alone for some reason that I don't.
And I am your host / Time Lord Wannabe, the brainstorm of pop culture. How's everyone doing tonight? Hello, Dragon Turtle. I'm doing well.
By the way, did you get the pictures and stuff for the top 5?
Yeah, we're good on that.
Okay. I don't remember you mentioning it when it came to summarizing topics, and I was like, wait, are we not doing that this week? I thought we were doing that this week. Okay, but in any case, once more into the breach of moralistic authoritarian to intellectual fucktards coming for holidays once again.
All right, there we go. This was originally from truthout.org. Waging War on Valentine's Day by A.K. Thompson, published February 14th, 2014, so 10 years ago.
God, I feel old.
You felt old for the last 5 years.
Yes, I know. Shut up.
I'm just saying, quit your bitching. Because to be honest, this is how that is what most old people do. Is bitch.
We shall see if you feel this way when your 30s are staring down the barrel at you, sir.
Dude, I've literally lived about 40 years within the first 24 years of my life.
Yeah, and the running joke in my household was that I was whatever age I was going on 70 since I was like 9 years old. So let's not play the life experience strip poker game just now. All I'm saying is You have a good solid 4 or 5 years left of your 20s. Enjoy them.
I am
Because I am looking ahead at 30 as though it is a toll unto the grave.
Don, I haven't enjoyed my life since I was like 10.
Yeah, in fairness, some of what we cover might have something to do with that, but that's neither here nor there. Moving forward.
Yeah. How can we rescue radical love from cardboard expression and use it to restore the humanity of our oppressors? Jesus Christ. That's the subheader.
Yep, it's that kind of article. And this is why I was surprised that we hadn't covered this yet, because we did cover a Valentine's Day in communist or socialist praxis, like I think last year, because Corrupt was here for it, but even it didn't go quite this hard into the social justice paint.
Most old people do bitches. Uh, I I mean most old rich people I could agree to that.
Yeah, the rest of us aren't so lucky.
You
As
ain't that
evidenced
old
by
if
the
you're
fact
dead.
that I'm 28 and still a goddamn virgin. But that's slowly working on that issue.
All right. Okay. So, okay, yeah. Type why is Valentine's Day into Google and the three times again. This is from 2014, so some stuff might be a little dated, possibly. So,
Yeah. Please note we are looking at this with 10 years worth of hindsight, but it shouldn't change that much because unfortunately the conversation hasn't changed that much in as many years.
yeah. Okay. Give me. All right. Type. Yeah. Okay. Let me reread that. Type why is Valentine's Day into Google and the top three search suggestions come up as follows. Why is Valentine's Day celebrated? Why is Valentine's Day important? And why is Valentine's Day bad? You know what? Actually, I'm
Because
gonna let me. I'm gonna look this up just to see if that's true.
if it's still true, 10 years in the rear view.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um. Okay. But I mean, if you do have something to say, please say it.
No, go ahead. It is a useful exercise to figure out whether the trend is still going or not. I have a theory as to why the trend was going even then, but we will get to it after you have checked.
2 out of 3.
Which two, out of curiosity?
Celebrated and bad are the two most searched, with why is Valentine's Day on February 14th being the third one, and with why is Valentine's Day important actually just under that. So it's not even so that one is not the third most searched.
Well, but it also hasn't really changed that much. But anyway, back on point. The reason why I was about to go on a screed when Brainstorm read that was because the reason why the phrase "Why is Valentine's Day bad" uh, is probably so prevalent in not just the internet of 2014, but the internet of today, is because one of articles like this exactly, is part of the problem. But moreover, even prior to um, even prior to the moral ascendancy of social justice, these radcons bitched and moaned and whined and morally puritanicalized about Valentine's Day being pagan or commercialized or secular or all three or some kind of satanic subversion, blah 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 blah. Because moralistic fucktards cannot bring themselves to just let people have fucking fun especially when that fun requires them to admit that not all good, fun, or interesting things come from their framework. And as we just field tested live and on air, the problem has not sorted itself out, because between the social justice warriors now currently in the ascendancy and the fringes of whatever's left of the tradcon orthodoxy, people are still bitching and whining and moaning about how we can't let people have fun if that fun comes from outside of our framework. Derp, over and over again. Moving on.
Okay, so to address a few things, Stranchel says, can you say ideologue word salad? Which I think is referring to this, obviously. Yeah. Um, and what search engine? Google and probably others are artificial. That's fair, but
I'm willing to take it as on face value this time, on the basis that it hasn't changed very much, and back in 2014 the internet censoriousness was much looser, and two, because we are currently dealing with an example of exactly why, at least why is Valentine's Day bad is in the running for the top 10 still, because again, people can't grow up and just deal with the fact that some things are older and more important and a better source of fun than X given moral framework. Moving on.
okay. Follow any of these threads for any length of time, and it becomes clear that our collective answers have thus far been inconclusive. But while St. Sorry. But while St. Valentine's shoddy martyrology, and the dismal February snow may cast doubts on the holiday's providence. Providence, no. Provident, no.
Providence. It
Provenance.
means like it.
Yeah, prove and Nance could put together, so I'm not. Provenance and advisability, it's hard to deny that the celebration of love resonates strongly with many of us, even if the festival's precise dimensions prompt feelings of anxiety, frustration, and rage. I mean,
Go ahead.
to be fair, I was gonna say that's like the rom com scenario, but I don't know if that's technically true.
Okay, so here's the thing. I am willing to believe that this particular writer or her. Wait, who wrote this again? Brainstormer?
Said A.K. Thompson.
Okay, that doesn't give me any indication as to which gender this person is. But I'm willing to bet that this person, whomever they may be, and also the person's social class that we're talking about, may be anxious, angry, or bitter about Valentine's Day. But one, that strikes me as very much a you problem. And I'm saying that as someone who does suffer from anxiety to a quite severe degree. The difference between you and me is that I don't make my anxiety the entire rest of the goddamn world's problem. I do not use my anxieties as a cudgel with which to morally beat and cajole society, culture, institutions, and etc. You, however, are one of those remarkably regrettable cretins who feels the need to make everyone under the sun and several people who are not accountable for your pain. The world has caused me pain and the world needs to pay seems to be your type of motto. But that's neither here nor there. One, yes, your anxieties are a you problem, and you should not be inflicting them as a moral cudgel with which to beat the entire rest of the world. And two, one of the rational reasons why these holidays might be a source of anxiety is because holidays are, by necessity, more important than other days on the calendar, and therefore incentivize us to put in extra effort. And putting in extra effort can sometimes be stressful. But it is not a good reason to go, I don't want to put in the extra effort, so we need to abolish the holiday. It's a good reason to grow up, STFU, and learn to cope with extra stress when you're putting in necessary amounts of extra effort on days that require you to do so. And if you can't so much as muster enough self control or self awareness to put a lid on your rage, bitterness, and anxiety so as to allow you to put the necessary extra effort into holidays, then you have other problems. Because if you can't bring yourself to stow the attitude on days when it is sort of by necessity expected that you do so, you probably aren't very good at coping with those emotions any other day of the year either. Just saying. Moving on.
In radical scenes, Valentine's Day is typically repudiated. Repudiated.
Repudiated, yes.
For being a gross and cynical corporate exercise. Nevertheless, the mass attention devoted to love on this day should be approached as a political opportunity. At the very least, it should prompt us to consider that we might want the term to mean as we struggle collectively to change the world.
Oh, for the love of fuck. Literally, in this case. But, okay. One, fuck all of that quasi-political bullshit. The world exists outside of your activism, dear. Please fucking deal with it like a human being. But two, as I always do whenever the X holiday is just corporate bullshit, blah blah, point comes up. Corporations, okay, for all of their many faults and foibles, of which there are many, and we could go into them in a more sane dialogue, but for all of the many faults and foibles of corporations, with regards to what they have done, quote unquote, to holidays, they are simply doing what capitalism is supposed to do. It is noticing that there is a market here, and it is willing to provide services and products to that market. That is not some kind of cynical ploy, blah, blah, blah. It is simply people have a natural inclination or desire to buy nice things on holidays so as to mark said holidays, and the corporations went, oh hey, we should totally serve this market. And they serve the market, and then they reap the rewards of sowing the market. Now, this might not be quite as much of an obvious point in, 2014 as you were writing this, but I will tell you in 2024 as I am currently responding to it, given that the arcane knowledge that corporations should in fact endeavor to please their customers is apparently some kind of arcane print, like some kind of foreign esoteric knowledge now, we should applaud corporations in so far as they ever remember to serve their customer base. So, yeah, no, fuck your blah 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 corporatism blah point, dear. Holidays become corporate because corporations exist in society, and they exist, at least when they're working properly, to serve their customer. And their customer has a market, and that market comes from the desires of the people that occupy it. So don't bitch at corporations for providing services to their customers, especially given that, again, with the 10 years of hindsight that we have sitting here in 2024, it is much, much worse when corporations get it into their heads that their customer base are immoral and should be shunned and shamed whenever they desire service. So, yay, corporations for functioning how corporations are actually supposed to do and serving your customer base. It is not a moral wrong to do so. Fuck off. Moving on.
It's no longer surprising to recount how capitalism abducts our desires to imprison them in commodities. But when the desire is love and the commodities are grotesque cardboard abominations, it's hard not to conclude, passe adorno, that writing poetry after
Okay.
Valentine's Day is barbaric. Be this as it may, people in mass continue to be seduced by the Valentine's Day industry. Along with the romantics, whom Marx held to be their legitimate antithesis, capitalists themselves have acknowledged that love is serious business. According to one recent report, relatively here, Valentine's Day was estimated to have contributed more than 18 billion to the U.S. economy in 2013. That sum, accumulated in the span of a single week's excess, is comparable to the annual contribution of Wisconsin's food and beverage industry to the gross domestic product.
Okay, I'm gonna end up repeating myself again here, but that is not the people selling out to commodities. That is not capitalism tricking people into wanting commodities. I'm gonna have to do that thing where I very condescendingly explain basic functions of how to human again, but in case it slipped anyone's mind, oh champagne socialist and possible trust fund baby, because I'm almost sure that this kind of person is one of those. People like nice things, especially on days or times that are special to them, and therefore a society that is capitalistic in nature will endeavor to provide those nice things which people, in the sane mechanisms of a transaction, are willing to pay money for, so as to have access to those nice things and or ownership of those nice things for which they can do things of their own leisure later. Again, stop treating the basic building blocks of functional human civilization as though they are the devil, please. People like nice things. Companies, corporations, and businesses notice that people like nice things, and then they attempt, generally, or at least when the world is functioning properly, to provide those nice things. And in a sane world, which is somewhat distant from the world in which we currently find ourselves, people are willing thereby to pay money for those nice things. And no one is damaged in this scenario. No one. Niet, nil point. With the possible exception of moralistic ideologues. And honestly, if I could work my will, we would all sit around a bonfire while the only people who suffered ever were moralistic ideologues. But that's neither here nor there. Moving on.
Okay. It's impossible not to be struck by both the enormity of our collective desire for love and the absolute inadequacy of the available means for its realization.
I am going to tentatively disagree. I'm going to wait for the person to elucidate what they actually fucking mean by the means being inadequate, because I can tell you that if you're looking at this from the standpoint of 2014, I hate to burst this particular bubble, but oh sweet summer child, you have no idea how good you have it. It can and will get so much worse.
All right, moving on.
Yes.
Little wonder then that many of us flee to the marketplace to find a less cardboard version of love in the horizontal embrace of community. But while such impulses are commendable, they can't match the juggernaut that turned Valentine's Day into an impenetrable storm of swirling pink confection. Capitalists may not have a monopoly on love, but they've certainly managed to shape our habits. Even outside the market, love has become fundamentally acquisitive.
Yes, because, and this is really going to fuck with your head, but I have to say the obvious thing again. Relationships are generally, at least implicitly, transactional. If a relationship is not at least implicitly transactional, someone is at least in severe danger of being taken advantage of. Because in a proper, balanced, functioning as it's supposed to function, implicit transaction, people like to see the people they like happy and or in love and or emotionally connected passionately about them and to them and blah. So yes, unfortunately for you, basic human interaction, the thing that separates us from freaking lower animals, is, at least implicitly, if not explicitly, transactional. And that is not a bad thing. It is, in fact, one of the things that makes our civilizations at least mildly sane and or rational. And it should not be demonized. Please. Moving on.
Right. Okay. Craigslist may not be a catalog of our best moments, but it certainly provides a telling snapshot of our most honest ones. Throughout its post, it's impossible not to be struck by both the enormity of our collective desire for love and the absolute inadequacy of the available
You
means
read that
for.
already. Or are they just repeating
Uh,
themselves?
I think they might be repeating, though. This isn't an actual. What I read earlier was uh, like image wise, I guess. It was bold
Okay.
and stuff.
Oh, it was a caption. Alright, that makes sense. Okay, moving on.
Okay. Throughout adequacy for the available means for its realization. A recent survey of misconnections was enough to confirm my worst fears. Alongside the lovesick M gushing malapropism, malapropism to ensure the bookworm on the Astoria bound Q train that she was unimaginatively beautiful. I found the following guy buying drinks for the lady at the Charleston. If I ever buy someone a drink, they always keep talking to me, he insisted. Nevertheless, if you kept giving me side glances, but that was all, I guess you're very shy and need someone to be persistent. Tormented by the looming holiday in response to the whole bleak scene, one brave W issued an urgent appeal. Write me love letters.
Okay. And when this hypothetical person decides to write you love letters, are you in any way obligated, implicitly or explicitly, to return some sort of sentimentality to them and or write a reply letter? Because if you are, then I am sorry to inform you, O great believer in things communistic, that you have engaged in a basic transaction of human relationships. And this is where the truly fucked up part comes in. Not only are relationships usually, at least implicitly, transactional to some degree, but we as humans really like it that way because it means that we're not being taken advantage of. A one way system where one person is lavished with affection and gifts and chocolates and whatever the fuck else, and the other person is not even implicitly required to return some sort of sentimental affection in response, is a narcissistic taking advantage of relationship. That is an abusive relationship. Specifically, it is a relationship founded on essentially white knightism, where one person is required to engage in what the Greeks called agape, self-sacrifice, and the other party in the relationship is required to no such thing. And that might work for you in the event that you are the taker, the abuser, rather than the abusee of such a unbalanced transaction. But I feel it is my responsibility to inform you as a human fucking being that that makes you the worst scum you could conceivably be in that circumstance. It's not the worst scum overall, but it is certainly the worst kind of scum you could be in that circumstance. Requiring self sacrifice from your hypothetical partner and returning nothing, including sentimental affection, makes you the worst, romantically speaking. Where both parties are expected to both be somewhat reciprocal and somewhat self-sacrificing, that is a romantic relationship. Or where there are multiple vectors of, balanced repayment in a relationship, that is a relationship. But where one party is expected to get all the goods and the other is expected to get sweet fuck all, is not a stable or happy or even a meaningful relationship, period. It is a leeching of the highest order. And it is scummy behavior, straight up. Moving on.
Um, so I think this is a really long article. Uh, I do
Hmm.
think it's 9 or 9:10. Call it. Move on.
Yeah,
All right.
depending on how far we get. Moving on.
So it's February, and the most annoying of days is around the corner. Except when what? Except what if it isn't what? What if it wasn't annoying? What if it were thoughtful and careful and wonderful, and a chance to tell someone, a stranger even, a beautiful and romantic sentiment? Yeah, that's fucking Valentine's Day. You
What you are describing is how maybe not everyone, but a sizable majority of people make Valentine's Day for themselves. The problem seems to be for you, my dear writer, whose gender I do not know, um, is that you are annoyed by Valentine's Day, and therefore you assume that your response is typical. Whereas most people are already on board with the conceit of Valentine's Day, just like most people are on the general conceit, are on board with the general conceit of most holidays. You basically just described why does Valentine's Day have to be annoying? Why can't it be all the things that it is for everyone else? And I sympathize with that sentiment to a degree because it's bad for you that you don't have that kind of satisfaction, but you don't have to reinvent or restructure or reorganize Valentine's Day to make it those things. You honestly seem like you need to just get out of your own head and find someone who you think can give you that sort of sentimental feeling. And it might help if someone like myself reminds you that to have a happy, stable relationship, there is actually at least a implicit transaction involved. And treating things as though implicit transactions make things evil may be a considerable portion of your problem. Because if you go into a romantic relationship expecting a one-way system where you get all the good things and there is no transactional responsibility incumbent upon you at all, that might explain why you can only find yourself in either trash relationships or no relationships. Maybe if you grew a frontal lobe and joined the rest of us up in the species known as humanity, you would realize that transactions, as long as they're well handled and, reciprocal, are not bad. They are not primitive or basic, and they are, in fact, one of the many things that separates us from the animals. And a lot of us are quite happy with that arrangement. Moving on.
even when acknowledging the dread particular to this role, to this most annoying of days, even when confronted with the grotesque dimensions of our still imperfect efforts. We still search out paths for beauty, romance, and sentiment. Sooner or later, we admit that we're reluctant to renounce them despite all that's been done in their name. One of our greatest challenges then is to save the desire for loving connection, a desire as big as Wisconsin, from the inadequacy of the candy coating in which it's encased.
Okay. You are constantly guilty of speaking with the royal we, my dear. You need to be using the pronoun I, but you for some reason do not frame your assumptions or your feelings or your attitudes as a singular entity expressing their singular opinion. You feel the need to give yourself socio-political clout and therefore concoct this hypothetical royal we of yours. The difference between when you do it and when I have just done it a couple of times is when I am referring to we in the broader humanitarian sense, one, I admit it, and two, I can actually point you at people who think in the way that I think, and they don't just include my sphere of influence or my social circle. I can point at the general sentiments of the general populace because I am familiar with this thing we call the real world, where real people have real thoughts and real feelings, don't you know? Whereas you appear to be the sort of upper middle class twat, possibly with a family history of being a trust fund brat, just speculating here, where because you and your suburban gated community have come to this bourgeois opinion of yours, you assume that it must be how everyone feels, or worse yet, how everyone should feel because they're morally obligated to feel the way you feel because derp reasons. And no, no. See, when I make a claim, I can speak for myself and only broaden the hypothetical societal we when I'm fairly certain I am speaking for a large majority of people. Whereas you concoct a large majority of people from whole cloth because you feel the need not to speak as a singular agent for some goddamn reason. Moving on.
Right, sorry. Forgot I muted myself real quick. Alright. Prying the desire from the object is like splitting the atom. It has the power to release a tremendous energy that can be channeled into social transformation, but only if we recognize our common cause with the rose wielding sucker armed with a box of chocolates.
Okay, my friend. The main reason why this separation of yours does not exist is because people like having physical representations and tokens of each other's love. Once again, drilling down to a level of humanity most basic, so basic that I have a hard time believing I have to do it. But once again, and I feel the need to, yes, speak on the behalf of the majority of humanity when I say this. Whoever you may talk to in the world, there is a 99.9% chance, unless they are a moralistic ideologue to some degree, which that is the confounding variable in that case, unless you talk to a moralistic ideologue, I can guarantee you that whatever people define as nice, or whatever people define as nice things, if you use the category of nice things, every motherfucker on this planet wants nice things, and quite a sizable proportion of that community also would like nice things in conjunction with romantic or loving sentiment, because that is how a basic bitch human being do generally. And you can feel free to prove me wrong, but I'm going to need to see a fuck ton of evidence to disprove the trend that I have seen in my life and in other people's lives and in the historical record of millions upon millions of people's lives throughout history. Moving on.
Love in the Trenches. In the recent issue devoted to the theme of love, the feminist stalwarts at Shameless magazine connected that it was the most radical topic they could write about. Nevertheless, the editor Sheila Sampath confessed in her introductory remarks the obviousness of love's importance to radical stages did nothing to change the fact that it remained by far the hardest topic to address.
Because people really, really don't like being morally lectured about their romantic lives. Like really, like that is one of those other informal, implicit, universal truths that are out there, especially where people are having fun, expressing their passions, or being romantic. They do not like being morally lectured to in the public sphere or the private one. Like, it doesn't matter if we're talking about like the Jehovah's Witness of social justice, or whether we're talking about someone protesting in a public space, where people are trying to have fun and or engage in love, romance, etc. They don't like being morally lectured. In fact, that is one of the great weaknesses of all moral ideologies. They feel the need to have creative and personal fiat over fun and love and anything that has a positive effect on someone's life or well-being. And generally, that is where most ideologies fail, because where you need to either co-opt someone's method of fun or passion or romance, or you need to force them to abstain from fun, passion, or romance on the basis of authoritarian censorious morality, that morality is going to have a very short half-life. It's why the satanic panic failed. It is why currently social justice is failing, albeit slowly, and it is why just about every other moralistically authoritarian impulse in humanity will probably end up failing, because the moment you need to deprive people of fun or take credit for people's fun, they will usually eventually tell you to kick rocks and will inform you in no uncertain terms that they are ready, willing, able, and would prefer to have that fun without you involved in any way. Moving on.
Okay. In light of this difficulty, radicals often have preferred to sidestep analysis in order to embrace slogans and images that conduct a hasty marriage between love and our longing for social justice. How else would you? How else are we to explain the profusion of heart motifs and exploding that exploded in the activist visual lexicon at the beginning of the 21st century?
Okay, I can explain this. In fact, I already just did explain this, but I will repeat for clarity's sake. As I just said, one of the rather insidious aspects of moralistic ideologies is that they either have to convince people that it is morally wrong to engage in fun, or they have to take credit for that fun by subsuming it under their framework and their paradigm in some way. And as I just went over, the moment your moral ideology requires you to do that, the days of your moral ideology are numbered, however numbered they may be. Because people really fucking hate when morality sticks its nose in their desire to have fun. And the more an ideology either tries to censor that impulse to have fun or take credit for it the more likely the average person is just going to tell that ideology to kick rocks. In other words, to use a slightly more modern meme than you would probably be aware of in 2014, you guys played yourselves because you made the one mistake that every ideology makes and the one mistake that eventually ends up killing just about every ideology. Not content with allowing people to have fun outside of you or outside of whatever morality you happen to be espousing, you chose to either take credit for it or to ban it on the basis of your moral framework. And at that exact moment, you became more trouble than you were worth to the majority of people, and people were ready, willing, and able to tell you to get fucked. Moving on.
Right. Okay. Give me one sec. All right. Why did the hearts seem to become our movement's ascendant sign? And how did this icon that previous generations had surrendered to Hallmark or ensnared in the cruel grip of 1,000 barbed wire tattoos?
Because
Hold on,
because you wanted
hold
to
on,
make the
hold
claim.
on, hold on.
Sorry.
Yeah, it was just like it was like a little bit of a sentence left. So, all right, becoming as important as the star had been to previous insurgencies.
Okay. Third time for those in the cheap seats. The reason the heart became central to your motif, just like it has to every other motif throughout history, is because you essentially wanted to make the moral claim the only proper way to have love or romance or affection is through our framework, because only our framework could ever possibly be a source of good. And as a result, you became first annoying, then preachy, then censorious, and finally, people told you to kick rocks. As well they should, because this is the fundamental mistake of every moralistic ideology throughout history. When they simply cannot let people have fun outside of them, they either have the option of A, co opt and subsume that fun in the name of morality, or B, ban, censor, and stymie that fun as much as possible in the name of same morality. Usually a little bit of both. And when that happens, is the moment people begin to get fucking sick and tired of that moral ideology. Because that moral ideology requires either you have fun the way we tell you to, or you're doing it morally wrong. And that is the fundamental weakness of all authoritarian moralities, which inevitably leads to their demise. So much the better. Moving on. Did you mute again?
Shit, sorry. Yeah, sorry. I was like yawning like crazy. I didn't want to interrupt you while you were talking.
I see.
All right. All right. Let me. Okay. I will be the first to concede that Chapon Chevin's image was inspiring. Still, it begs the question: what is the connections between loving and fighting?
Usually loving is a motivation for fighting because people fight to prove their worth to people they love, fight to protect people they love, fight to obtain things that they love or people that they love, etc., so on. Fighting is also sometimes a mechanism to obtain honor, which is a thing that is more likely to net you the love or affection or at least admiration of people around you. I suspect you're going to have a much more convoluted and much more social justicey way of making this connection, but I feel safe in my assumption that pseudo-intellectual gobbledygook will be wrong. Moving on.
All right. For anarchist, feminist, author, and punk icon Wendy O. Matic, radical love is best understood as a spiritual pursuit. In her words, such love is an opportunity to save the planet, heal Mother Earth, connect with the cosmos, and work towards creating a sustainable community. For this reason, the concept has a sacred global interconnection at its core. A polyamory advocate and regular workshop facilitator, catering to intimate revolutionaries and relationship anarchists.
Okay, my dear, you must understand that conception of love, that kind of holistic, like quasi-Buddhist definition of love, where like you have dispassionate love for all things, is not what people are referring to when they are referring to love in the sentimental or romantic sense. The love that people refer to in the sentimental or romantic sense is the related or the relationship oriented definition of love. These are my people, these are my friends, these are this is my significant other, blah 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 blah. Like that is the kind of love people are generally referring to when they refer to romantic or related love. Not this quasi-Buddhist, you should have detached universalist love for everything. Because even the most enlightened of the Buddhist master, so at some point has to come to terms with the fact that he has preferences. He does value certain things more than other things, and he does prefer to be bound to them in some kind of transactional relationship of this is my thing, this is my friend, this is my lover, this is my mother, this is my, fill in the blank. But this kind of relationship, this kind of love is more particular and less universalistic. And moreover, you could not universalize the kind of love we are talking about without basically creating a bunch of solipsists. The only way you could create this kind of mashup between particular related or relationship oriented romantic love and this kind of universalistic Buddhist, you know, detached love for all things in like a humanitarian sense is if you were raising a generation of solipsists where every single human being on earth believed that everything else on earth belonged to them and therefore they had some kind of duty to protect it somehow. um but that model I don't think would remain sustainable for very long. Moving on. I think
Moving
Brainstormer
on.
is yawning again.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were okay. Da, 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 da. Where was I? Sorry. Uh, huh. Okay. Okay. Polyamory advocate and oh wait, no,
You read that already. Yeah. Next.
no, I didn't.
Wait,
Polyamory advocate
didn't
and regular workshop facilitator catering to intimate revolutionaries and relationship anarchists. Matic recently concluded a radio interview by noting that one of her main objectives was to help people become more enchanted with the world.
and that is wonderful for a given value of wonderfulness, I suppose, because people do generally. I think the world would be better if people were more enchanted, quote unquote, with the world. but you see how it bears no resemblance to the kind of romantic or relationship-oriented love that we were talking about? Like, even friendship doesn't work that way. People generally prefer the you know, they prefer the connection to certain people over certain other people. If you try to convince people that they owe literally everyone on earth the same consideration that they would owe a best friend or a lover, that person will explode from all the effort they would necessarily have to put in to that relationship. Or they will more than likely give up and become extremely cynical and nihilistic about it eventually.
Mm.
Because love
Yeah.
is, or love and affiliation are finite resources because we are finite beings. You can't project the same close personal connections you have for best friends or for lovers onto literally everything in the goddamn universe. Or I suppose you can, but you're likely to either explode or become nihilistic by the end of it.
All right. Move on.
Yep.
All right. In the face of disenchantment that overtook the globe with the rise of dark satanic mills, these sentiments are both noble and ah, ex- explicitly anti-capitalist, but sentiments are not strategy, and honesty compels us to acknowledge um, the ease with which reenchantment has historically been enlisted to buttress a soulless status quo.
You will forgive my seeing through your own bullshit using your own bullshit, but, generally speaking, the kind of ideologies that are grouped under the heading of social justice, especially the anti-capitalist ones, TM, are also the ones responsible for the most focus on material conditions, hardcore materialism, superstition is neo-reactionary, um, abstract suppositions, except the ones that we like, are bad, okay, etc., and so on. And by the way, if your assumption is that quote unquote enchantment is somehow not in any way quote unquote capitalist, um, then you, my dear, just know, you will be better off and safer if you never make such a claim ever again. The spiritual dimension is full of people who are transactional, or entities that are transactional. And if you broke that metric, you broke that association, you would be breaking forces so fundamental that I don't even think I could conceive of them. Not to mention, you'd probably likely to be eaten by any of the entities that you approach, espousing the virtues of non-transactionality. When that entity eventually goes, okay, so what am I getting out of this? Just saying, as someone who rather specializes in the enchanted parts of the world, if you like, yeah, you're going to die quickly, slow. You're either going to die quickly and abruptly, or you're going to die long and screaming. My dear, if you approach spirituality with this approach.
And we are going to call it for that article for the time being, just because we do have others.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie, I've been up since like 4:30 today, and I'm a
Okay,
little
you
tired.
want to skip to the top 5 then, and we can just save the
No,
articles
no,
for next week.
we can at least, if nothing else, we can at least do one more article.
Well, I mean, if you're that tired, then why don't we just do the top 5
No, no,
and we can
I'm
call this one as well
sluggish.
episode?
I'm sluggish. I will admit that, but I'm not tired yet.
Okay,
Plus, I don't know.
how long is the other article?
It's actually like the other article actually isn't that long. I'm looking at it right now. It's not that long.
Okay. Because just as I got through ranting about with the whole transactional nature of relationships thing, as your friend, I really would not like you to suffer any more than you have to, and so we should move things along rather quickly.
Yeah. All right. This from again. This is actually a lot older. Well, not a lot older, but it's over. Okay, hold on. Okay, so this is turning Valentine's Day into a day for social justice. Originally published by uuworld.org.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Written by Michelle Bates Deacon, published February 21st, 2011. Uh, U- Uni- Unitarian Universalists demonstrate for LGBT rights, immigration reform, religious tolerance, and first standing on the side of Love Day.
Oh, hey, this is going to be annoying. Moving on.
Valentine's Day may never be the same. Well, clearly,
Press X to doubt on that one because Valentine's Day has existed since before Saint Valentine himself existed, and it will probably exist in some form long after Christianity is no longer even a twinkle in someone's eye.
so this February 14th, the Unitarian Universalist Association, Standing on the Side of Love campaign, set out to transform a day once reserved for romantic love, chocolates, and flowers into a celebration of courageous love and social justice.
Um, no, just like I don't want it to be a symbol of quote unquote explicitly Christian love either. Moral ideologies have very little authority or say so when it comes to holidays. And as far as I am concerned, and I will put my foot down metaphorically on this point, that's a good thing that moralistic ideologies have very little say so over holidays. Because holidays are usually indicative of forces much older than anyone would be comfortable with acknowledging under most circumstances. And you should not meddle with such things. You should let them be what they're going to be and leave it the fuck alone otherwise. Which isn't to say that you shouldn't involve yourself in them. It means you should involve yourself in them in the full knowledge that whatever power these days have, they come from places older than any given moral ideology.
I'm. Well, I do appreciate the concern, Dragon Turtle. I'm fine for right now because I'll be fully on. Again, I'll be fully honest. I actually think I might have taken a micro nap while Dawn was talking during that last bit.
And I will strive my best not to be offended by the fact that I'm
No, no, no,
literally
no,
putting Brainstormer to sleep, but okay.
no, that had nothing to do with you talking. That was literally, I was literally just, I was just, I think I was just so tired. I just like,
It's a good
I don't
thing
want.
we're not in a Freddy Krueger movie. Micronaps would be deadly.
I mean, I could still hear everything and stuff. I just,
Okay.
yeah.
But anyway, moving along so that Brainstormer doesn't have to die of sleep deprivation while we're sitting here.
Oh, please, I've had worse.
Yeah, but as your friend, it is part of my incumbent responsibilities to make sure you don't harm yourself unnecessarily.
All right. In congregations and in public squares across the country, Unitarian Universalists gather on Monday, Valentine's Day, and on the Sunday before to rally for marginalized communities and to speak out against oppression. Again, this was in 2011, so again, just
Early stage social justice.
yeah. Uh, at hundreds of events, you use demonstrated their support for LGBT identified youth, humane immigration policies, same-sex marriage rights, and tolerance for Muslim Americans, among other issues. I mean, that's
That in and of itself I have no problem with, but
well, no, that's
the fact that you're
cross.
doing it in the context of an oppressor oppressed framework does put a bug up my ass.
Uh,
Um, Also, obviously not all Muslims, because some Muslims are perfectly decent, perfectly laudable people.
mhm.
Um, do you see perhaps there might be a contradiction between being in favor of LGBT stuff and also being in favor of Muslims? Because certain strains of Muslims, at the very least, are rather prickly about their overt dislike of LGBT things, quote unquote.
Hmm.
Meaning that if I was ever in Saudi Arabia, I would probably be thrown off a building if I wasn't beheaded or castrated or burnt at the stake first.
I'm gonna say E, all of the above.
Yeah, somehow they managed to keep me alive just long enough to behead me, castrate me, and burn me at the stake so that they can then throw the corpse off a building. Yeah,
Well,
that
I
that's
okay.
that's probably how it would go down.
So
There would be a bidding war between like three different angry mobs of Muslims.
mhm. Moving on.
Hmm.
All right. We are re-envisioning Valentine's Day as National Standing on the Side of Love Day. I'm thinking one of the reasons it didn't catch on was that's a mouthful for a holiday.
Well, that, but also because the average person is not going to understand how that is substantively different from how Valentine's Day always is, because Valentine's Day is the love holiday. Which isn't to
Yeah.
say that love isn't a crucial feature of all the other holidays as well. It's just that of all the holidays we have, the one that is explicitly and quite overtly earmarked for love in the romantic and relational sense generally is Valentine's Day.
All right. Said Dan Fermansky, campaign manager for the Standing on the Side of Love campaign. Reimagining Valentine's Day is in this way shows that love knows no border, no gender, no race, and no religion. Yeah, okay, that's fucking Valentine's Day.
Yeah, generally speaking, that's sort of what Valentine's Day is for. With the small proviso that once again, you can't universalize romantic, affectionate, or sentimental love. Like people have preferences of which people they would rather hang out with, and that is always going to be a thing. I don't care how much of a good little Buddhist you are going to have preferences of some people are more fun to hang out with than other people. And when that happens, you are going to be making a relationship based and transactional, at least implicitly, association.
Yep. Moving on.
Yep.
All right. The February 13 and 14 events generated more than 75 newspaper articles, television broadcasts, and radio segments about standing on the side of Love Day. With this much media, millions of people have read about the values that we espouse, said Fermansky. First celebrated last year, the Day About Love was celebrated in response to an act of hatred, the 2008 shooting at the Tennessee Valley Unitarian Universalist Church in Knoxville, Tennessee. In a letter found in his car, the shooter, who killed 2 people and wounded 6 others, wrote that he targeted the church because of its liberal views, including its openness to gayness and lesbians. Okay, well,
Yeah, fuck
uh,
that guy in every
yeah,
conceivable hole. Um, just to be clear. Also, just to be clear, I have no problems with Unitarian Universalists. The only reason I'm speaking up in this case is they appear to have been co-opted by social justice. And that is in error. Just like you shouldn't invite the serpent into the garden. You shouldn't invite totalizing moralistic ideologies into your universalistic one, because you will probably end up getting co-opted. And I don't want to see Unitarian Universalists get co-opted, because generally speaking, I think Unitarian Universalism is kind of cool and makes a lot more sense to me than a lot of other denominations.
Be right back.
Mm-hmm. And to your sarcastic, probably what the ideologues would say comment, Dragon Turtle, I would respond to them with, even the reactionaries, ? And then watch their heads explode. Because that is the thing. They want everyone to think the same, and so literally everything is permitted except deviation from the ideology. Whereas I kind of come at it from the other angle, where I am willing to permit just about every ideology except the ones that are moralistic, authoritarian, censorious, totalizing, co-opting, belittling, and or vilifying. Like, everyone is welcome to my hypothetical tent, with the exception of people who really would rather take over or burn down the tent, because it's sort of anathema to the tent thing, you see. It's like, I will gladly talk to any Muslim who is a practitioner of Sehir, because Sehir is awesome, just like most other forms of magic are awesome. But when it comes to the Muslims who want to, play rock paper scissors to decide whether I get castrated, beheaded, burned at the stake, or thrown off a building for my various haram cards, I don't particularly like those guys. Those guys strike me as the whole freaking problem with the majority of the Middle East right now. And so they can get fucked. Moving on.
After the shootings, the church vowed to remain inclusive and welcoming, inspired by the courage of the church members. The UUA launched the Standing on the Side of Love campaign, also known as SSL and pronounced Sizzle. Okay. It is based on the UUA's first principle, which affirms and promotes the inherent worth and dignity of every person. The campaign helps UU congregations mobilize support in their communities for marginalized groups. Okay.
Okay, and here is the problem with that stance, Unitarian Universalist of 2011, and I realize I am massively Monday morning quarterbacking here, about 10 years plus Monday morning quarterbacking. But that stance only functions as long as everyone agrees, at least to some degree, with that stance. But there are actually people, as this incident you're describes, who really don't like that position and don't want you to hold it, and would actually rather kill you than allow you to hold it. And unfortunately, when taken to its logical extreme, social justice is just as much authoritarian and moralistic as those. Because if you are a Unitarian Universalist who happens to be opposed to social justice, for example, then you are basically the devil until we tell you otherwise. That is how social justice will eventually invade. It is everyone is allowed to participate except the people who disagree, and then boom, the universalist dream is over, and you are now the useful idiots of whatever social justice commissar you happen to be serving at the moment. Mm-hmm. And then we all wonder, what happened to the Unitarian Universalists? They were quite good. And then someone will say they got co-opted by someone who didn't agree with their universalist position and framed morality as something that they had a monopoly on. And the Unitarian Universalists weren't savvy enough to argue quickly enough, and now they're dead. Or at least non existent anymore.
Okay. Sorry. UU's promoted a variety of causes during the 2 days of events and celebrations. Congregations were encouraged to present Courageous Love Awards to groups in the community who were standing on the side of love. At First Parish Unitarian Universalist in Cambridge, Massachusetts, the Sunday service focused on immigrants' rights. The Reverend Fred Small invited leaders of the student immigration movement to share their stories from the pulpit and to highlight the importance of the DREAM Act, which would give children of illegal immigrants a path to legal residency in the United States. The congregation presented the students with Courageous Love Awards, and the members of the congregation pledged to work with the students to lobby for the DREAM Act's passage.
Okay, and again, I hate to be a party pooper from almost 15 years in the rear view here, but the problem with that is several of let's take the two largest set of immigrants, okay? In America, the largest set of immigrants come from South America. A large percentage of those people coming from South America, the ones that actually have any right whatsoever to be here, and not the, human trafficking cartels, because fuck those guys. But yeah, but even the ones who have every right to be here, or as much right to be here as you could imagine, a lot of those immigrants are going to be fundamentalist Catholics. And they are not going to abide by your Unitarian Universalism to any large degree. Not to mention the aforementioned human traffickers and cartel members who definitely are not going to abide by your Unitarian Universalism and are quite opposed to it quite violently. And then let's take the other currently largest set of immigrants right now, outside of the US. In Europe, the largest demographic among immigrants are Muslims. And quite a lot of those Muslims are the type of fundamentalist Muslims who even their home countries think are too radical and so want to get rid of and push in the direction of Europe so as to undermine the quote-unquote great Satan. And as the aforementioned, Islam, totally fine, insofar as there are strains of ideology within it that are perfectly fine and even laudable to some degree. And I stand with all of the people who happen to be of Muslim faith who practice Sahir or any other type of mysticism they feel like. That is totally fine. And again, I am willing to acknowledge that a large percentage of Rome's wisdom was saved by the Eastern Roman Empire prior to the rise of Islam, and even continued to some degree under Islam's heel. But there are quite a lot of fundamentalist Muslims who do not believe in universalism at fucking all. Their approach to this phenomena is hudna. When I am weak, I will disguise myself as a mouse. When I am strong, I will outlaw all disguises. And that is a very, very bad thing to be injecting into a liberal first world country of any description. Because whether you're dealing with the fundamentalist Catholics who may or may not be involved in human trafficking, or whether you're dealing with the fundamentalist Muslims who definitely are involved in things that would be out of place anywhere other than the third world, your inclusiveness is not going to last longer than their radicalism. So at some point, you do have to take some sort of stand for your beliefs, or you will lose those beliefs, and those beliefs will likely be co-opted by things like fundamentalists of other religions or fundamentalists of secular ideologies like social justice. And then you will wonder what happened to your movement as that movement becomes first radicalized, then splintered, and then non-existent. Moving on.
Right. Okay. At a reception after the service, more than 150 people sent cards urging Massachusetts Governor Deval Patrick to keep the state out of the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Secure Communities program that has been detaining and deporting immigrants. The following day, representatives from the Cambridge Church, along with fellow UUs from the Fulton Church Society in Lexington and First Parish in Waltham, delivered the cards to the Massachusetts State House. Representatives of the group were able to arrange a spontaneous 20-minute meeting with Governor Patrick, who pledged to hold a series of community meetings around the state to listen to people's concerns. I don't have anything to say to
that. Yeah, no comment.
Susan Leslie participated in the first Parish Cambridge events at the church and at the State House. She is a member of the Cambridge Church and also congressional advocacy and witness director for the UUA. I've been working at the UUA for 18 years, and I've never seen anything grab fire like this in the congregations. UUs have really been embracing the campaign, she said. She added that more than 125 congregations registered national standing on the Site of Love Day events through the campaign's website.
Mm-hmm. No comment.
Yeah, I don't have. Yeah. In Ogden, Utah, members of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Ogden held a rally in support of the rights of undocumented immigrants. The church led a public witness event at Ogden City Hall with songs and prayers asking that love, justice, and compassion be used as the guides for whatever decisions are to be made in immigration policy.
I have no problem with that, with the exception of the aforementioned paradox of tolerance thing. If you tolerate people who will not in turn tolerate you, and their beliefs are more important to them than your beliefs are to you, then your beliefs will be subsumed by their beliefs. And that will be a problem. Because as far as I'm concerned, the Unitarian Universalist approach to such things is a better approach than the fundamentalist of any given religion or ideology's approach to anything. So I would very much like the Unitarian Universalists to develop some kind of self-preservation backbone so that they don't get nuked by various religions or ideologies. Because you people are sensible people, and I would very much like to live in a world where sensible people continue to proliferate rather than unsensible people. But being as you were writing in 2011, I can understand why this was not the first thing on your mind, because the world was so very much simpler and so much more idealistic in 2011 than it is in 2024. But being someone who has had the life experience of living from 2011 into 2024, I must point out the paradox of tolerance you are establishing here. Because if at any point you tolerate people who do not tolerate you, and they believe stronger in their non-tolerance than you believe in your tolerance, then you are fucked. And I don't want you to get fucked, I want them to get fucked. So please develop a backbone for your own safety.
Moving on.
Yep.
All right. Members of the Unitarian Universalist congregation at Shelter Rock in Manhasset, New York, prepared a giant Valentine to send to U.S. Representative Peter King, the House Committee on Homeland Security chairman, urging him not to hold hearings on what he has called the radicalization of American Muslims. Around the country, congregations held screenings of Laramie Project to address the recent string of suicides by LGBT youth. Several Arizona congregations set up phone banks to call legislators to oppose restrictive immigration policy.
Okay, see, here was your biggest mistake, because the radicalization of otherwise secular, Muslim-leaning people in America is most definitely an issue, and it should be an issue that you care quite a lot about, because again, if they believe in non-toleration stronger or more fervently or more overtly than you believe in toleration, guess which side is getting nuked? Unfortunately, it's not the side that makes the most sense. It is, in fact, the side that is the most vile. And I don't like that. Again, I prefer a world in which sensibleness proliferates, but if we don't be sensible with a backbone that defends our sensibleness, we will result in a world where there are fewer and fewer sensible people. And speaking as I am from the year 2024, someone very clearly done fucked up, because there are far fewer sensible people in 2024 than there are or were in 2011. And I firmly believe that we should go back at least to the period of 2011, if not significantly further back to the 90s, where nobody had a moral say-so into wider culture. Please. Like, sensibleness should be advocated for quite forcefully if necessary, because the opposite of that is the world becoming less sensible, and that is bad. Moving on.
In Maryland, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Annapolis helped organize a rally along with Equality Maryland to support a state Senate bill that would allow same-sex couples to marry in that state. Valentine's Day, more than 500 people gathered, and Fermansky was among the speakers. He led the crowd in the singing of the South African freedom anthem, Siyahamba, which means we are marching. Fermansky and the
Okay.
Maryland. So hold on, just one sentence left. So, Fermansky and the Maryland crowd included the lyrics, "We are standing on the side of love." Okay.
Okay. Question. How do the African countries you are borrowing this from feel about homosexuality? I'm pointing it out in relation to my aforementioned paradox of tolerance thing. Because if it so happens that the place you borrowed this from is one of the places that does not feel very kindly whatsoever to homosexuality, then I would once again advise you to be sensible, but be sensible with a backbone that allows you to defend yourself. Because otherwise, you may find yourself getting co-opted and then radicalized and then fracturized and then eventually non-existent. And that would be bad for the world, to lose people who actually are on the side of universalism. So please, for the love of God, have some mechanism to weed out the people who are going to take advantage of you. Because if you don't, then even sitting here in 2024, it can get worse, and it probably will get worse. So please, for the love of God, someone, if someone from the Unitarian Universalists sees this and listens to me, be sensible, be universalist, but be that with a backbone that does not permit people to co-opt and subvert you. Because if you don't prevent people from co-opting and subverting you, then it will be you who ends up facing the wall, and the person who you really would rather not exist being the one shooting you. And I don't want that ending. I want the opposite ending. The opposite ending is a better ending.
Moving on.
Moving on.
Fermansky had sung the song the day before as well, when he was in Knoxville to present Courageous Love Awards on behalf of the Standing on the Side of Love campaign to Tennessee Valley Unitary Universalist Church and West Side Unitarian Universalist Church, both in Knoxville. He said he was recognizing them in the wake of the shootings for their inspiring resilience and their long-standing efforts to bring love forth in their community. Okay.
Yeah. I have no comment there other than that resilience is very, very good. That resilience does, however, at some point need to transition into straight up advocating for your position contrary to other people's position, because again, it is very often the most committed and the most devoted positions that survive when violence comes a knocking. So be as committed to your position as you can and be willing to defend it from contrary positions, please. Moving on.
The two churches in turn presented a check for more than $11,000 to an organization providing services to local homeless families.
No comment. Other than that is good and based.
The fact that the frame of the entire Standing on the Side of Love campaign was born out of a violent event that galvanized communities across the country into action with love is an unquantifiable measure of success, said Furmansky. He imagines that in the future, February 14th could be a day that anchors an entire week of public witness events and actions.
There I disagree with you. There's no reason that those things couldn't coexist with Valentine's Day or the ethos of Valentine's Day itself. And I don't condone politically co-opting of holidays. Holidays are, by their very nature, way more powerful and way more ancient than any given ideology or morality. So you should not politically co-opt holidays.
Right.
They are older and more powerful than you, and you should respect that.
The whole idea of Valentine's Day as a reimagined holiday of love and acceptance for all people resonates tremendously, Furmansky said, and if we stretch ourselves in a way that we're out in the community forming partnerships and spreading our message broadly by promoting this social media and local print and broadcast. This through social media and local print and broadcast media, the value of that cannot be overestimated.
Problem being, once again, you shouldn't be doing it to try to subvert or co-opt Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is older and more potent than you, so you should respect that. But two, there's no reason why that couldn't coexist with Valentine's Day, and there's no reason you have to put this universalist sentiment of yours at odds with the already existing sentiment of Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm. So we're gonna skip the other article we had for next week, which will be the last week of February, and just move on to our top 5 waifus and husbandos.
Yes, we're doing an anime themed one this year, guys.
I will admit it was somewhat difficult for us just because Dalton and I are not like super big anime watchers.
My biggest issue was narrowing things down.
Right.
And trying to rank them.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, that's fair for Dalton. I haven't really watched a lot of anime in recent years. Just either been busy or just nothing's really caught my eye. So.
And just to be clear, we are including Western things done in an anime style, such as the Netflix Castlevania anime, Blood of Zeus and Trece.
Yeah. So, heads or tails?
Heads.
Okay, you're going first again.
Okay.
You sure you don't like do a luck thing?
I don't. One, it would be energy intensive as hell because of the distance between us, and two, I don't care that much. And three, I try to avoid influencing probability when I can, because I got too addicted to doing it when I learned how to do it, and now
I have to actively avoid doing it. So there.
Fair enough. Uh, you're number 5.
Uh-huh. Germany from Italia. Because, well, I'm not that hard to figure out at the end of the day. I like my guys extra large and massively muscled and also overprotective. And if any of you knows about Italia, you know about the relationship between Italy and Germany in Italia, and that's all I really need to say. And just to be clear, the characters in Italia are essentially the genus loci of the countries. They are not necessarily in control of what their politicians do with those countries. So I do not blame Germany for the machinations of evil mustache man or art school dropout. So there.
We did not put Avatar into our list. I will be upfront about that, Giant Troll. Just because we've all, like in other lists, we've done Avatar. So.
And the only thing that it would result in is me getting yet another excuse to bust brainstormer balls over the whole Azula thing. So there.
Right.
There aren't enough hot guys in Avatar. I just noticed that.
Okay. Anything else to say about? I haven't,
except for like all the nameless Earth Kingdom soldiers. The nameless Earth Kingdom soldiers tend to be hot, but I don't remember any of them particularly.
So I haven't seen this anime, so I don't really have an opinion one way or the other. So, do you have anything else to add, or?
No. The reason why he is my number 5 is because, I mean, it is Germany during World War II, so while, again, the genus loci of the countries that are the characters in Italia are not responsible for what their politicians do, he is also wearing a Hugo Boss uniform most of the time, so there's that.
All right, my number 5 then.
Mm-hmm. Oh, unironically, the Hugo Boss uniforms are hot and or aesthetically pleasing and shit. It's just there is a little bit of that ew factor that lowers him down the list a bit.
So my number 5 is Miss Balalaika from Black Lagoon. To be fair, there are plenty of women that I think would suit my that I would be attracted to in that show. Although most of the others are just downright fucking too crazy for me.
Yeah, and Brainstormer, despite his whole Azula thing, does tend to abide by the golden rule of don't stick it in crazy. I'm unfamiliar with this anime, so I'm curious what qualified as too crazy to stick it in this case.
Well, it's a very okay. I think Tarantino did an anime.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like if Tarantino did yeah, no, just an anime, I guess, sort of. But Balalaika is interesting because she's a leader of a mob, a Russian mob called Hotel Moscow, runs this city called Ranipur, I believe. I don't remember where it was specifically. I know it's somewhere like within Asia, but she's also like a highly skilled soldier that became a criminal. Um, she's while she is absolutely terrifying and a ruthless killer, not going to deny that. To be fair, most everyone in that show is a killer.
Hmm.
Um, she is actually one of the more calmer and controlled of the like the cast. Um, what else can I say? I mean, yeah, she's badass, which is always a thing for me. Shut up.
I'm
Plus,
just saying, whenever you read the Dresden Files, your waifu list is gonna grow by like 3 feet.
and I'm not gonna lie, and y'all can make fun of me for this, but she is kind of an older woman, and
Yes, which Brainstormer also has a thing for.
shut up.
I'm just saying. Wait until you meet Sigrengard in the Dresden Files. That's
Yeah,
all I'm
but
saying.
again, it's like one of those things. Like, I watched this stuff when I was a little too young. Like, I saw it on maybe Adult Swim at some point, and it I felt things.
Uh-huh.
Also, it's like, for the record, Black Lagoon is like one of those animes where like the English dub is like, that's really the only way you can watch it, I think. Like, it's perfect. Very few anime do that.
Hmm.
So,
I just now realized you might like Freydisgard a little better because she's a redhead. And I know that is also a thing for you sometimes.
uh, I think that's about it. Okay, give me 1 second. All right, you're number 4. Hold on, let me. There we go. Yep. Okay.
Huron from Blood of Zeus. This isn't complicated. Greek heroes, especially demigod ones, are hot as hell, and my type is really not mysterious once you get to know me.
Mhm. They're just now doing a season 2. Like, there's a trailer came out for it not too long ago.
Yes, and I'm hoping that a season 2 announcement for Tresse will be in the offing soon too, because Blood of Zeus and Tresse came out around the same time, and we need a season 2 of Tresse. Oh my god, Tresse is awesome.
It's a
Which
really
that
like that
comment
is a
may or
really
may not be
underrated one.
foreshadowing for one of Brainstormer's choices, but
Shut
yeah.
up. Shut up. All right, but yeah. Though I will admit, I mean, to be fair, it's every first season of any show is a proving ground.
Hmm.
But it's not a
But
bad show. I
I,
enjoyed it
I
from
mean,
when I watched it.
I mean, yeah, Blood of Zeus. With regards to Heron, I mean, his name literally is a namatization of the word hero. So what's not to like? And
I thought it was a
it's not like there's a shortage of Zeus's bastard children for me to hook up with either. So there's that.
okay. Moving on.
Hmm.
Okay. So your screen. My number 4, kind of an easy one, but the hero known as Midnight from My Hero Academia. Uh, how to best explain it, because I know I'm going to get a lot of things. Uh, um, God, her quirk, because Gentle last. Her quirk is I can't remember the name itself. I think it's supposed to be like somnambulous, something like that. Basically, she produces a smoke that knocks people out.
Is it
Like,
is it somnambulous?
I think so.
Because that basically translates as sleep agent, basically, which I guess
Yeah.
makes sense for her powers.
She's also
Somnus
like a
means
very
sleep in Greek.
also true journal arts. From what I remember, and I've also watched videos that talk about like the deeper lore of My Hero Academia. She is a very X-rated hero. Thank you, Jonah. That actually is her title, the X-rated hero, I believe. Yeah.
Mhm.
No Dragon Girl, not chemical mind influencing. It's literally just from her pores. She releases knockout gas. It's one of the. She's actually one of those characters that it's smart for the fan service. Just like because of her power and stuff. Because the reason why she wears like that skin tight gray thing you're all seeing there, it's terrible. So she can build up the smoke in her pores, so she can release a larger amount of it.
Mhm.
She's also
So what you're saying is she's a literal goddamn knockout, but I'm Tish.
yes. She's
I'm
also
sorry, but that pun needed to be made, or I would have exploded.
She's also very free, which I can respect.
Yeah,
Like, I mean,
you
look at
and
her. Look
your
at her. That's her hero costume. Look at that.
like you and your manic you and your manic free spirited girls. I can't I can't decide which is more appealing to you, the goth girl emo thing, or the manic hyperactive variety of free spirit.
Um, as far as I'm aware, Drentrel, yeah, it's just knockout. Um, but I also respect that while she's very sexy. I'm not like the best. That's the best way I can say it. She's also like she's genuinely a hero. You know,
Mhm.
she does her job. She does her work. Much to the point that she in the story she has actually died doing hero work. This character is dead.
Mhm.
Um, but she's also like a teacher. You know, she cares about kids and nurturing the next generation. She is. She does it in her own very somewhat etchy way, but I respect the freedom and the hard work she puts in. So
Hmm.
I think that's about it, actually.
Hmm.
All
So
right,
then, my number 3.
yeah, give me 1 second. Okay.
Iskender from the Fate series. Once again, I am a very straightforward person when it comes to my kinks. Larger than life, hypermuscular, super strong, and like Paragon heroic. Also, in the series, his summoner is actually a little nerdy kid, so it is very, very easy for me to put myself in that particular couple. Very, very easy indeed.
Anything else, or
Uh, no.
okay?
Your number 3,
Oh, Giant Turtle asked who again?
Iskender from the Fate series.
Um, he's also, I mean, that's one of his names. The other one was Alexander the Great.
Hmm.
Give me. Okay. Dawn's not complicated.
I am very straightforward. I just have very high standards.
Yep. Here's my number 3, Faye Valentine from Cowboy Bebop, the anime, obviously.
Not whatever the fuck Netflix was doing at the time, because that was before they got their shit together.
Um, I do want to preface this that I am somewhat rusty on Cowboy Bebop lore, just because it has been some time since I've seen the original show. But I do remember Faye. I remember some things, obviously, some things that have stuck with me through the years. But I like Faye because uh, I like Faye because she. Best way I can describe it. How do I describe it? She's cool and badass without the sacrifice of her femininity. Right? Like,
Hmm. One of the things that separates the version of her from the anime and the version of her from the Unspeakable Netflix adaptation. Because
um, but
apparently the actress who played her in that version bitched and moaned about being attractive, god damn it.
but also, I guess another thing that I find attractive about Faye is she is kind of one of the few people that reacts like uh, how a normal person would react to all the crazy shit happening, even though she is a part of that crazy world.
Hmm.
Um, and she's just cool. She's a cool person. a lot of layers. Again, I cannot say much just because it has been some time, but I know she is one of the characters, like one of the very few. Yeah, thank you, Jonah. Again, I if I do get something wrong, I am sorry. Again, it's been it sucks that it has been some time since I've watched Cowboy Bebop. Um,
If anything, this is your incentive to find it and watch it again at some point.
hmm. Okay. I don't have Netflix.
Don't you have the Amazon Fire TV stick now?
Yeah, but I don't have Netflix.
Yeah, I guess you're not. I guess you wouldn't be willing to jailbreak it, because you can do what's called jailbreaking to an Amazon Fire TV stick, and it basically gives you access to everything that it would connect
Yeah,
to.
I don't want to do that mainly because my family will probably be very upset at me and yeah.
I
Um,
sort of feel like Martin would be on board with jailbreaking it and would in fact help you do it, but that's just a estimation of his character.
well, mainly I'm worried about my grandfather who is basically paying for all of it. So,
Well, it wouldn't cost you any money to jailbreak it, I wouldn't think.
look, man, I'm more just worried. I'll be fully honest. I'm more just worried I'll fuck up somehow and cause a lot of problems. So
Uh-huh,
I'm
which is why
fine.
you should get Martin to help you so that
I
you can
just
jailbreak it and then have access to everything.
all right, but I'm still not. While again, thank you for correcting me on all the things I got wrong about Faye. I do think she is one of the characters that I do find myself attracted to. Uh, though I do agree, if anything else, I should probably watch the series again just so I can get myself reacquainted with the character and
Hmm.
have a better judgment of the character. See why I remember liking her.
Hmm.
I think that is it for Faye.
So my number two then.
Yeah, give me 1 second. Okay. Okay. I mean, if you guys want to give your list of women or men, again, that's
Or a mix. Why not? We don't judge.
yeah. We're just doing. Obviously, we're just picking the ones we're more uh, attracted to in terms of gender. So
Yeah.
uh,
Jonathan Joestar. Because it was a Herculean measure of restraint on my part not to include the entire freaking Joestar family on this list. But yeah, Jonathan is the one who's the most paragony, and as I've often mentioned before and will go on to mention again, I'm sure countless times, the main thing that I am looking for in my significant other is my exact categorical opposite. And I am morally ambiguous, shadowy, and mystical. Therefore, I want the classic hero paragon for my hypothetical significant other in all universes. So, yeah. Jonathan Joestar is definitely up there in terms of the Paragon members of the JoJo family. Therefore, he makes the list.
All right.
Like I say, I'm very straightforward. I just have high standards.
Jonah asks, "Where's Dio?"
Dio is too much like me, and therefore we would not make a good couple. Again, I'm looking for my categorical opposite to balance myself out, and therefore villains should be kept at a minimum, lest my darkest aspects be encouraged, and that wouldn't be good for anyone. Certainly not people I care about. So, yeah, I need a hero who's going to keep me on a moral leash, and Dio would do nothing but encourage my absolute worst aspects, which
Right.
would do nothing but result in this pitiful blue marble we are currently on being burnt to a cinder as we scorch the skies together.
Right.
And while that has an appeal, it is not an appeal that I should engage in, lest the world be burnt. So there's that.
To be fair, every male in that show is drawn like a Herculean figure.
Again, the question was not am I going to include a member of the Joestar family? It's how in all the fucks am I going to limit myself with regards to the Joestar family members I've put up the list?
All right.
So I went with the one that was the most pure and Paragonish. Because cute. And also morally good for me.
So, all right, so moving on to my number 2 then.
Yes.
All right. Alexandra Trece from the Netflix original anime Trece, which is based off a Filipino comic of the same name. To describe the show itself, because I don't know if anyone here has, besides me and Dalton, have seen that show.
Anyone who hasn't seen Trece, go and watch Trece. You will have a fantastic time, and you will thank us later.
I would highly recommend it. Though it has been a few years since the first season came out, so if you're waiting for season 2 like we both are, I will admit that it leaves you wanting more. Again, how do I best describe this show?
Goth badass Hispanic Constantine.
Well,
Kind of.
that I was gonna put Constantine in there, but I also a little bit of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, a little bit.
Think probably more Raven from Teen Titans than Buffy, but yeah.
Well, no, I'm talking about the show overall.
Still, probably would put it closer to Teen Titans, the Glenn Murakami show, rather than Buffy, but that might just be me.
The titular character Alexandra Trece is a her father. She is a character who's trying to live up to the legacy of her father, who was basically like a supernatural detective cop that kept a lot of magical stuff within a. Did they ever mention the Filipino city's name or?
They did, and I just don't remember it.
Yeah, it's been a few years, but the trying to keep order and balance and she herself, she does play up this certain a specific type of character, and because the show itself is also like a detective noir story as well.
Again, it's very like Filipino Constantine-esque, maybe with a little bit of Jackie Chan Adventures thrown in, almost.
Yeah, a little bit, a little darker, very darker. It's very much an adult animation, but not like Western adult.
It's not deliberately overly edgy. It's just a really
Yeah.
good adaptation of something that is a bit. But like this is the thing. Even though it does have its dark moments, I could see it being shown on like early 2000s Cartoon Network without much of an issue.
Like Nicktoons or something, right?
Or yeah, like Nicktoons Network, like in a similar vein as like 3 Delivery or that sort of thing, or the action cartoon block of Cartoon Network.
Yeah.
I could see this easily fitting alongside like Ben 10 Alien Force or Ultimate Alien, Generator Rex, Secret Saturdays, and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So okay, back to this. She's very like I said, she plays up like kind of the detective, stoic, highly competent.
Yeah.
I will say this: she is not a Mary Sue, very much not a Mary Sue.
No.
Uh,
She's
'Cause she's
badass as hell and will fuck you up, but
Mhm.
she earns that reputation.
Yeah. But she's not without her flaws. You know, she's not perfect. Again, in my mind, it's been God, what like how many years since the show came out? 2019.
It must have been because it was like right before or right after Blood of Zeus came out was when Tressé came out.
I
But
think
while we're here and Brainstormer's thinking of other things to say, I will throw in what probably should be my honorable mentions for this list, which is the twins from Tressé. The twin bodyguards who are also Filipino demigods that regularly assist Alexandra. I would do such things to them as would make Penhead go goddamn. So
right. God damn. Well, she's very much a workaholic, I would say.
Which you like that in your girls.
Depending. I mean, it depends. Like, if it's to the point where it's detrimental to their health and stuff, then I have a problem, obviously.
You would be a very supportive boyfriend for Alexandra, I think.
But yeah, like she's badass, but isn't a bitch about it, you know? I guess the way she's not Captain Marvel.
She's also not a tryhard. Like she has earned her stripes and scars in roughly the same order. And it's characters like Alexandra Chassé that make me think you are going to have such a thing for Karen Murphy if you ever get around to reading Dresden Files.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about Alexandra.
You're probably you would flirt by sparring with her, I think.
Probably not. It's weird how you think that of me. I'm not a fighter.
Yeah, but every girl you have a thing for kind of is, and that makes me think that there is at least a part of you that finds that shit romantic and would gladly spar in the dojo with her as foreplay. Which again, come the time you eventually get around to reading Dresden Files, you are gonna have such a thing for Murphy, man, and Sigrengard.
That is fair, Jonah. They say, to be fair, that is not made from high horse riders in America that thinks they know better and want to make the characters OP and earn everything they have.
This is also true because there are certain places in this world that still bother with things like, good writing and well-rounded characters and in-universe logic taking priority over thematic bullshit. Oh, if only.
Alright, so you're number one?
Yes, my number one. Sinbad from Magi. Anyone who knows anime knows this one was coming based on my proclivities, but I'm gonna have to explain why Sinbad is so awesome, and it's gonna require me to kind of explain the magic system of Magi. In the world of Magi, which is based heavily on Middle Eastern folklore, specifically the 1001 Arabian Nights, there is this thing called Ru, which is basically the universe's equivalent to Chi in setting, but Ru takes the form of these little butterfly things. And the thing that is special about Ru is not only is it, Chi, life energy, etc., but it's also kind of the mechanism in the Magi universe of like the manifestation of fate. And so the magic users in the Magi universe manipulate the Ru to create magic, but it also controls the flow of destiny. And there are certain people, especially kings, who resonate with the Ru and therefore have the capacity to manipulate the flow of destiny thereby. And Sinbad is what's known as a first class singularity, which basically means that the world will bend over backwards and make him the Gary Stu version of whatever the fuck he decides he wants to be. And good for the rest of the world, he decides to basically be the Arabian equivalent of Superman. And so the Ru basically assists him by making fate bend over backwards and lavish him with all the nice things. And yeah, again, I'm really not that complicated when it comes to my desires. I'm very straightforward when it comes to my desires. I just have high standards. And as a magician, there is a certain appeal to me of serving a king, one. And two, he is just the sweetest little cinnamon roll of a person ever, and he controls the flow of goddamn destiny, which is just, and the innocent way in which he kind of haphazardly backwards his way into realizing that is also adorable. Because this is the thing with Sinbad. You would think a person who knew they were a first class singularity would just immediately go full authoritarian mode. But Sinbad, he basically just does whatever the fuck he wants and lucks his way into Gary Stu status. Like he didn't even set out to become a Gary Stu. The world was just like, you, good person, you resonate with the Ru, and he was just like, so that means I get to have fun and do adventures and shit, right? And the world was made a better place thereby. It's actually freaking adorable. And he is so goody two shoes, in fact, that even though someone spread Ru corruption to him, he's just able to basically turn that part of the Rue that he resonates with off, so that his good side wins out by default. It's and therefore he only even bothers unleashing the negative aspect of his Rue when it would be convenient to his friends and or the country that he is the king of. So someone literally tried to turn him evil, and he was just like, okay, but no. So I'm only going to use that when I feel like it's a good thing to use it. And the world was a better place as a result of it. He's freaking adorable, and therefore he is my number one on this particular list, anyway.
So I guess we're moving on to my last one then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for anyone who grew up like I did in the 2000s, watching anime, this is the anime that I got most invested in, more so than Naruto or One Piece. It is the other less recognized, the underrated, in my opinion, of the big three of Shonen Jump anime. Which I'm sure a lot of people know what that is, I hope.
Mm-hmm.
But my number one is Yoruichi Shihoen from Bleach. Yes, thank you, Jonah. Like, full honesty, it is like she is like the of in the development years of my childhood, like before I even like hit puberty. She is like one of the 5 animated women that awoke something in me. I know you don't know much about this character or the anime I'm talking about. But Yoruichi Shihoen is a really, really cool character. She's one of the strongest characters in the show. And she's just having a good time, you know. She's just chilling and having fun often. And yeah, I'm really realizing a lot of things about me.
These lists do have a tendency to make that a thing, don't they? Like every time we do one of these lists, I end up going, wow, I didn't like I value consistency and good for me, but I didn't realize just how thoroughly and consistently my types align as well as they do.
Yeah, but also, I'm gonna be honest. This was one of the few images I could find of her from like I assume the official anime that was not overly sexualized, because she is a very much a fan service character as well. And I am not complaining about that. Normally, I don't particularly care for fan service when it just feels a bit overindulgent. But for her, I make the exception because it works. Mainly because she also does use it as a tactic sometimes to throw people off. So, tactical fan service. I'm coining that.
Fair enough. I mean, it's not like the idea of the Black Widow or the honeypot strategy is new or anything.
She's not really. No, she doesn't really do that. She's just a very overly flirty person, though it's never like. To be fair, like in actual show, she has both men and women. I hate using this term, but it's effective here. Both men and women simping over her. So
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
And in fairness, I think so does Sinbad in Moggy. He's just such an adorable little shit that he doesn't even realize it most of the time, which is even more adorable.
um, yeah, I guess those are our list. We'll have another one next week to end off. Actually, you know what? A little challenge for anyone who does show up next week is to make a list of your top 5 characters, like childhood characters that you watched that you found attractive. That's simple, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, we are gonna call it now, just because I'm gonna be fully honest. I am like legitimately on like just a ounce of awareness right now, and I think I'm about ready to pass out. So, with that, folks, I want to say goodbye, adios, aloha, auf Wiedersehen, sayonara, peace, cheers, and
Shalom and fuck off so Brainstormer can sleep. And I can do other things.